Hey everybody, back here again to answer some more of your questions. Let's jump right into it. Cody asks, are the Articles of Confederation the reasoning behind the checks and balances system in the United States? As in, the federal government holding some powers and state governments holding other powers? Well, yeah. If you think about where the Articles of Confederation came from, they came from the situation after the Revolutionary War where we got rid of the king and we wanted to replace the government at a national level, right, with something closer to home. Far away, big, bad government, that's what we don't like at the national level, right? So we instead want government to be closer to home. We want it to be local and we want it to be state, and we don't want it to be national. So the Articles of Confederation exist in order to allow state governments to exist and be the focus of where government happens. And so when we abandon that and we go to a system where we have a stronger national government, the same questions about government, too much government control and a possible tyranny, right, the tyrannical power of government showing up again, it leads to a system of checks and balances where we say, yes, we're going to have this House of Representatives, but it's going to be checked by the Senate. And we're going to have this legislative branch, but it's going to be checked by the executive branch. And we're going to have an executive branch, but it's going to be checked by the House and the Senate. And we're also going to have this third branch of government, which I guess it's going to do something as well. Again, another check on the branches. They all check each other. So if you can't have a system which spreads out the power and makes a weak national government, then you better make sure that there is a system to check the power so that it doesn't become too powerful at the national level. And then we put in there, again, as you point out in the question, a system of federalism where we also essentially check power on a vertical axis, right? The power at the national level is checked by the state governments through a system of federalism. Let's look at another question. Brandon asks, did the Founding Fathers plan on strengthening the Articles over time as the colonists grew more fond of having a government? I just can't see how they thought the original Articles would have worked for an extended period of time. Well, again, as we just mentioned, related to the last question, they expected states to be running the government. They expected states to be doing the work. They weren't interested in a strong national government. They weren't interested in a national government that was going to be as powerful and all-encompassing as we see it in a lot of situations today. They expected that the government at the national level would do some things and would coordinate some things and, sort of be extra, because we need to have one nation, but the real governing would happen close to home because they had seen how when you don't do it that way, you have tyranny. And so they did expect it to work in the way that it worked, right? To not be powerful, to not be effective at the national level. They wanted the state governments to be the place where government happened. Let's take another question. Alyssa asks, what gave the new government under the Constitution security that the states must follow through on all of its decisions more than being another agreement? In other words, what makes this a better agreement than the Articles of Confederation? One big constitutional provision, right? You know what I'm going to say? The Supremacy Clause. The Supremacy Clause says that if the national government makes this decision, this is the decision. There's also other things in Article 1, Section 8, where it specifically gives the national government the power to tax, the power to coin money, the power to create a post office. And so instead of where you had the states having to agree on something in the Articles of Confederation, it puts it right into the Constitution. These are the powers of the national government, and if this government decides that it's going to do something, it is the supreme law of the land. And so they write it into the document. It's not a question. It's not as you ask what gave the new government security that they would do this. They put it in there that you have to do it this way, states. Alyssa asks another question. Was there a certain problem that the Constitution was trying to address by specifying the manner in which members of the House would be chosen and not having this to each state's discretion? And yeah, it was absolutely something that we found in the Great Compromise, right? The Connecticut Compromise. The idea that big states wanted representation based on population. Small states, not geographically, but small states in population, wanted representation based on equality, one vote for each state, the way it was during the Articles, right? And so the compromise was a lower house, the House of Representatives, directly elected by the people every 2 years, close to the people, and it would be representation based on population. Bigger states get more. And in the Senate, it would be the upper house, where every 6 years, the state legislature, in the beginning, the state legislature, removed from the people, would choose senators for 6-year terms. Of course, later on, we amended the Constitution to create a direct election of senators as well. So there's some more questions answered for you. Keep those questions coming. I'll keep the answers coming as well. Keep studying, keep reviewing. Eschew mediocrity every single day.